But first, Liverpool are back in Champions League action tomorrow night against Bologna at Anfield. We can hear it live now from Vinny O'Connor, who is watching Arne Slot's side train. A very good afternoon to you, Vinny. It was a hard-fought win at Wolves on Saturday for Liverpool. Just let us know, have they picked up any injury concerns from that game?
Unfortunately, they have, Joe. If I step out the way, you'll be able to see that one bit of good news is that Darwin Núñez is back in training. He obviously missed the game against Wolves through illness, but the one player you won't see out there at the moment is Diogo Jota. That's because he picked up a bit of a foot injury. Now, what we're told is that he's had a scan, that the scan's come back clear, but he's just not training today. There's still a possibility he could be involved against Bologna, but I think perhaps the likelihood is that Darwin Núñez would get the opportunity to start against Bologna. He's only started 2 games, remember, this season. He scored against Bournemouth, of course, and played the full game against West Ham United. And you look at his numbers over his time at Liverpool: 18 goals and 13 assists last season. That was after 15 goals and 4 assists in his first season. But at the moment, seemingly second choice to Diogo Jota in that central striker role. Maybe will get the opportunity to push his case further against Bologna. As I say, the other bit of good news is that Andy Robertson is out there training as well. There was a little bit of concern after that Wolves game that he may have picked up a knock, certainly when he went off in the closing stages. But Arne Slot said afterwards he hoped to have him back training ahead of the Bologna game. I mean, it might still make sense for Kostas Tsimikas to start against Bologna. He did start in the San Siro against AC Milan, of course, one of his 2 starts this season, the other coming in the League Cup. But as I say, Andy Robertson out there training at the moment. And the other absentee at the minute as well, Federico Chiesa. We're not quite sure exactly what the situation is as regards him. We will get a check with that when we speak to Arne Slot a little bit later on as well.
And of course, Vinny, midfield looked an area of concern during what was a quiet transfer window. How are they looking specifically in that department?
Yeah, I'm just wondering exactly what's going to happen as regards changes that Arne Slot could make. We've seen him make 9 changes for the cup game with West Ham, 10 changes then for the win at Wolves as well. Jota was the one player who stayed in the starting lineup from the West Ham game, of course. So we're just wondering exactly what Arne Slot could do against Bologna. I mean, we look at the midfield areas, we look at the forward areas as well. For instance, Cody Gakpo was outstanding against Milan, setting up Szoboszlai's goal. And since then, he started against West Ham and scored 2, but was back on the bench at the weekend as Luis Diaz returned to the starting lineup. Was only introduced in the 73rd minute against Wolves, of course, but thinking every chance he could possibly return for Diaz. I mentioned Darwin Núñez, of course, as well. But as regards those midfield areas, it's been pretty much a similar kind of pattern throughout this season so far. I mean, obviously still not got Harvey Elliott back either. 5 games he's missed now with that fractured foot. But in midfield, we've seen McAllister, who we'll also hear from at the news conference later on as well. Gravenberch and Szoboszlai have shouldered the majority of the workload through the season. Curtis Jones obviously replaced Szoboszlai at the weekend at Molineux. He started against West Ham, his only start of the season so far. And Endo has been used sparingly, hasn't he, so far this season? 89th minute, he came on against Brentford. It was the same against Milan, but played 82 minutes against West Ham in the League Cup. So there's options there for Arne Slot if he wants to freshen things up somewhat. Remember, Liverpool are now the Premier League leaders. 4 straight wins since the defeat to Nottingham Forest. Looking to continue that, obviously, when they face Bologna and carry that momentum into the weekend trip to Crystal Palace as well.
Liverpool, just in general, how are they shaping up ahead of this game against Bologna, and what kind of threat are Bologna?
Well, Bologna, it's been difficult for them, I think, so far this season. You know, they've obviously lost their boss, Thiago Motta, Calafiori and Xerxes both left for the Premier League, so far from easy. It's been far from easy for them since then. It took until late September, of course, to get their first win of the season. 6 games in before they registered that first win of the season as well. They beat Monza, of course, to register that first win 2-1, and started the Champions League game with a battling goalless draw, really, against Shakhtar. So Liverpool, obviously, the expectation is on them at Anfield as favourites, given the way that they've started the season. I mean, that 4 straight wins since the defeat to Nottingham Forest really has been the perfect response for them. Now, obviously, topping the Premier League table at the minute, a point clear of Manchester City. Confidence is certainly high. I know that Arne Slot was very disappointed when he goes back to that Nottingham Forest performance, but it seems, you know, that there's good spirits, as you can see. The players out there, lots of whooping and noise amongst the group at the moment as well. There's been lots of smiles, and they've certainly taken to the way that Arne Slot has gone about his business since becoming the Liverpool head coach. So good atmosphere about the place. Liverpool in good form. Yet the performance against Wolves wasn't perfect at the weekend, but they're already beginning to show, I think, that one blip against Nottingham Forest, that when they're not quite at the best, they can still grind out results, and that's a worrying sign for not just the Premier League, I suppose, but other teams in Europe as well.